And that's exactly what's happened between myself as well as with the sheriffs here in the state of Texas. But, we got, 254 sheriffs in the state of Texas. And the reality is that my time, my effort, and my budget have been more focused on sheriffs on the border over the past 4 years. Not that we really wanted to, we had to, because of the magnitude of the problem. But what I have seen firsthand is the way that our sheriffs step up, answer the call, do what needs to be done. The reality is a sheriff has a big responsibility in whatever county they are the sheriff of. And in addition to running jails and dealing with crime in your county, there's all kinds of issues you have to deal with. Those who are in border-related counties, you got altogether additional challenges you have to deal with. And I just, for one, want you to know, understand I have observed the magnitude of the challenges that you face, what your needs are. I've enjoyed working and collaborating with you in the Capitol to make sure those needs are going to be addressed. I'll get into that in a second, but before I do, I do want to say hi to Clint McDonald again. And I got a point to make and a question to ask, and you probably have already talked about this, but I'm told that this is the 20th year of this organization. Is that correct? Well, congratulations on 20 years of the Texas and Southwest Border Sheriffs Coalition. It's a mighty force in the United States of America. Thank you and congratulations. To add detail to what Sheriff Martinez was talking about, we found ourselves in a situation where almost overnight there was a massive number of people not only coming across the border, but doing so in ways unlike in the past under both Democrat and Republican presidential administrations, where they would arrest and detain and go through the official legal process required by federal law. For the first time ever, they were not being apprehended, they were not being detained, they were being let go, and chaos ensued. And you know the way things work. When people find out that they can come across the border with no consequences, it opens the floodgates. And in just a 4-year time period, there were more than 11 million people coming across the border. Almost all of them going through counties of sheriffs represented here today. That added geometrically to the task that you had to deal with. And you helped answer the call. We worked with you all and working together. We had enormous success. Together we arrested thousands of dangerous criminals, including Mexican drug cartels, human smugglers, drug traffickers, even cop killers. Together we have seized more than enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the United States, Canada, and Mexico combined. Here's a fact that nobody will know the answer to. How many people, what names of people are alive today because of the fentanyl you helped take off of the streets? We'll never know. All I do know is because of the number of people who have died because of fentanyl, you truly have saved people's lives because of getting that deadly fentanyl off our streets. I just want you to know that even though we have seen a change in policy, even though we have seen the largest reduction in illegal border crossings in a presidential administration ever recorded, and there is very simply a small trickle coming across the border right now, doesn't mean that we stand down from our watch. Our obligation as law enforcement leaders is to maintain that watch perpetually. We have to go through recalibration and reevaluation, but we know one thing. if we let the foot off the gas, that's just going to send the signal that, once again, it's going to be easier getting in. Law enforcement is one of those jobs where there kind of is never a day off. We can't say, well, jobs done. It's like, let's compare it to building a house. You build a house, the house is built, you go do something else. This is a task that's never fully completed. It's just an ongoing process. But it is important to occasionally step back and recognize the magnitude of the difference that you and your efforts have made. The people whose lives were protected, the people whose communities were made safer because of what you did. Because of the changes that we have seen at the border over the past few months, it means Texas, as a state, in our budget process, we're going to be able to reevaluate priorities and how we rank those priorities and what exactly the spending will be upon. Let me give you an example. We have entered into agreements with the United States where our National Guard, who are deployed on the border as we speak right now, as opposed to having to perform the functions that we have been, which have been in contrast with what the federal government has been doing, instead we're able to collaborate with the federal government to deny illegal entry. As a result, many of our National Guard have been designated as working for the Border Patrol, performing Border Patrol-based functions of apprehension, detention, processing, all those kinds of processes. It's a force multiplier to the Border Patrol men and women who patrol our border. And it's a complementary effort where our law enforcement, whether it be our National Guard or whether it be our Department of Public Safety troopers, are now working in collaboration, in agreement with the federal government. And so we don't know exactly right now the number of National Guard, the number of DPS troopers, et cetera, that will be needed to be able to fulfill that mission. The mission is going through the process of definition and calibration, all that kind of stuff. All I can tell you is this, that we will be maintaining National Guard on the border. We will be maintaining a DPS presence and assistance for you at the local law enforcement level. But let me get to the point you most want to know about. What does it mean for our sheriffs? What does it mean for local law enforcement? We have in the budget right now, which I think is the same number that was in there in the last budget. We have $110 million in to support local law enforcement for those who are involved in the Operation Lone Star Project. We know that you all are at you can call it the tip of the spear, you are on the front lines of dealing with this issue. And physically, that front line has not changed. Monetarily, you need these ongoing resources to be able to deal with the consequences of being on the border. And so, the budget will not be finalized until the end of May, but right now we're going to have the funding in there to ensure that you're going to be able to have the resources to do what you have to continue to do to make sure that the border is secure. I'd like to pivot now and talk about what I consider to be another, but a different type of bipartisan issue. What I mean by that on the bipartisan categorization, I think in hindsight, elections show, but also in foresight, everyone should know that having secure borders is just common sense and something that is really bipartisan. Public safety is common sense and bipartisan. Everyone should want to be safe. Everyone should want to have the laws enforced. There is an area in our state in which that is failing, and as a result of that failure is leading to a public safety endangerment. We must fix a deadly and broken bail system the less dangerous criminals back out on the streets. By the way, back onto the streets that you are charged with having to patrol. The bail policies in the state of Texas, as I will explain to you, are endangering your deputies, endangering you, endangering your communities on a daily basis. The fact is that activist judges let repeat offenders, gang members, career criminals back out into the neighborhoods with little or no bail. We must end this easy bail system this session. One of the many horror stories involves Jorge Chavez in El Paso. Chavez was arrested for violent family assault after he brutally beat his girlfriend. An El Paso judge let Chavez out on bail of just $1,500. 5 months later, Chavez murdered his ex-girlfriend, stabbing her to death while she was on a 911 call begging for help. The woman was slaughtered in Representative Mary Gonzalez's district. And yet, she refuses to support tougher bail that could prevent murders like this. And this is not an isolated act. Hundreds of Texans have been murdered by violent criminals who had previously been arrested and released on easy bail. That's why I made bail reform an emergency item this session, because judges have far too much discretion to set easy bail for dangerous criminals. To be clear, this is not a right or left issue. This is a common sense public safety issue. Fixing broken bail requires these three things. 1, judges must automatically deny bail for violent crimes like murder, rape, and human trafficking unless there is clear and convincing evidence that the defendant will appear in court and not endanger the community. What this does from a lawyer's standpoint, it shifts the default position from one of granting bail to one of denying bail unless that legal standard is met. Second, judges who release violent criminals on easy bail must explain their decision to the public in writing. Third, before I go to third, I think the conclusion from that's obvious. It's going to expose to the public what they are doing in their bail decisions, and it's going to subject them to accountability for those deadly decisions that they're making. Third, prosecutors must have a right to appeal a judge's questionable bond or bail decision. That makes it obviously easier to get quicker judicial relief and to get the dangerous criminal off the streets. Too many judges grant repeat offenders second, third, even 16 different chances. There was one who was given 16 different chances before leading to a violent crime taking place. Judges in Texas, they have to decide, will they enforce laws to protect the citizens they serve or make it easy on the criminals who kill them? I think the answer is clear. I think if sheriffs get behind this across Texas, it's going to be an easy one to get across the finish line this session. There's a tall task in this regard, and that is, as many of y'all probably know, bail is written into the Texas Constitution. We can't change it by a mere majority in the Texas House and Texas Senate to get it passed. It requires a constitutional amendment, which requires a 2/3 vote in both the House and the Senate. That's why this being such a bipartisan issue is so important, because it's going to require bipartisan support in both the House and the Senate to get this across the finish line. But it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer for any representative who truly cares about the safety, the lives of his or her constituents. Well, going back to sheriffs, whether it's what you've done to step up and help secure the border, whether it's what you do on a daily basis to protect your communities or deal with just whatever criminal may be in your particular county, you're the true heroes of law enforcement in the state of Texas. It's been an honor of a lifetime to have the opportunity to get to know you, to get to work with you. And as long as I'm in office, you're going to have a governor who has your back. Thank you all. Thank you all. God bless you all, and God bless the great state of Texas.